Welcome.
Well, I'm sorry, Tatiana, who has joined us. That's Tatiana who? I can't see the surname. I'm sorry. Could you please?
Good day, everyone. So thank you for inviting Tatiana Kalachova.
Yes. I've got your registration form. Thank you. I'm very glad you have joined us. Thank you. Yeah. So there's Tatiana Kalachova from Ivanovo. Lots of participants from Ivanovo today because there's a famous lexicographic school in the city. And
we have Professor Olga Mikhailовna Karpova. She is the head of our...
We have already greeted her. We're very happy she's with us today. And hopefully she's going to contribute to our discussion. Well,
there is someone...
Shall we start? Our discussions tend to be quite fruitful and long, so the earlier we start.
Yeah, there is someone you need to admit. I couldn't.
Do you think so? I can't see.
There is someone.
I thought no. I've got the note that everybody who has been invited has joined us. I know. I have Daniel. Yes. Yeah. Thank you. I have found him. There's Daniel and Yulia.
Yes.
Daniel, you and Yulia from Addis Ababa and from Minsk. We have them. Well, dear participants, so I'm happy to greet the panelists and participants of this final discussion of International Colloquium on Insights and Challenges in Language and Communication. So we have had discussions already starting in October, and each of them was engaging and I hope thought-provoking. Well, judging by the number of people who have joined us today, this one is not going to be an exception, and I hope it will be an engaging and thought-provoking discussion. So let me introduce today's participants. So Fedor Negasa is a PhD holder and an assistant professor of the Department of Linguistics at Addis Ababa University. Dr. Fedor has published widely in social linguistics and computational linguistics. So, Dr. Fedor, we are very happy to have you today. Then, Svetlana Manik is a doctor of philology. She is director of the Institute of Humanities at Ivanovo State University. Svetlana is an expert on corpus linguistics and corpus lexicography. And as I have already mentioned, she's a member of Ivanovo Lexicographic School, headed by Professor Olga Karpova, who is with us today as well. And Derib, PhD, is Associate Professor of the Department of Linguistics, and he's also Associate Dean for Research and Technology Transfer of College of Humanities, Language Studies, Journalism, and Communication at Addis Ababa University. So Dr. Derib does research in social linguistics and psycholinguistics with a focus on African languages, as far as I understand. Well, so I hope participants of the discussion will introduce themselves before offering questions or comments. And now I'm giving the floor for some introductory remarks to Dr. Irina Zorina, Head of English Department at Ulyanovsk State University of Education. So, Dr. Zorina, the floor is yours.
Hello, dear colleagues. It gives me immense pleasure to welcome you all to the fifth panel discussion, Digital Age in Lexicography. We all live in an amazing time where the digital revolution is transforming every aspect of our lives, and lexicography is no exception. The digital era has opened up new horizons for lexicographers. New dictionaries are not now dictionaries are not just gathering dust on library shelves. They have become dynamic, interactive, and accessible anywhere in the world with just one click. And digital lexicography allows us to analyze huge amounts of text data to better understand how we use words and how they change out over the time. This is also a time when we can see new words being born on the internet and spreading at incredible speed throughout the world. Digital lexicography helps us track and adapt to these changes, ensuring that our dictionaries always remain current and relevant. It is important to note that digital lexicography also poses new challenges. Issues of copyright protection, verification of sources, and ensuring the quality of information are becoming increasingly relevant. We need to work together to find solutions to these problems and continue to develop lexicography as a science and as an art. So let us turn a new page in the history of lexicography and use the opportunities of the digital age to ensure that our languages continue to develop and to connect us. So thank you for your attention.
Thank you. Thank you, Dr. Zorina. So let's do it. So the first presenter today is going to speak on the fascinating subject of artificial intelligence in lexicography. Actually, nearly all the discussions I have been invited to in the past months have somehow been connected with AI in various spheres. Everybody is, well, mad about AI. So Dr. Fede Negesse is very welcome with his presentation on the impact of AI on digital lexicography. So Dr. Fede, the floor is yours. So Dr. Fede, will you unmute yourself and... Well, the floor is yours, Dr. Fede. So probably we're going to see some slides.
Yes, he's sharing.
Okay.
He's sharing.
Well,
can you see me now?
Yes, we can. So we are ready to listen to this fascinating subject.
Thank you very much. So I'm happy to be part of this academic event. So the topic, as we've said, is very, frankly speaking, it is thought-provoking. It is something that is emerging. So today I'm going to talk about lexicography in an era of AI. So I actually have organized my talk around 5 points, which actually Sheikh, Prince, and Steve said are needed when we talk about an emerging technology. For instance, we have to talk about demystification, concept contextualization, engagement, regulation, and positioning. So we look at these tasks, 5 tasks in terms of lexicography, in terms of the effect of AI on lexicography, and when AI is actually embedded in society, and when it starts affecting lexicography. So the first point is that it's needed actually when a new technology emerges, is that understanding what it is. Because when a new technology emerges, people start talking about it, and it is important that we know that what we are talking about. What is that we are talking about? So demystification has to do with understanding AI as a technology, as an emerging technology. So because of the fact that it is emerging, there are truths and fictions about AI, and it is important that we can tell the truth from the fictions, things that are not true. So the other important thing about demystification, regarding demystification of a new technology, or let me say AI, is that how does it work? These are the questions that people raise, and what impacts does it have on society, and in our case on lexicography, and how is it advancing? So let's look at these questions one by one. So I have, as I have said, there are perceptions and misperceptions around AI. So it is important that we demystify and we clearly understand AI. And when we talk about AI, we need to have a common understanding regarding what AI means. Regarding how it works, some say, well, it is rational. Others say it is neutral. Others say it is a black box regarding how it works. So really, some of them are true. Some of the perceptions are true. For instance, AI is a black box because it is very difficult to explain to a layman, to users, how it works. And is it rational? Is it rational like us? Is it neutral? I don't think. Because there are three things that AI lacks. It doesn't know what it does. It is not self-conscious. And it doesn't have its own free will. That means we impose our free will on it, and it does what we tell it to do. And it doesn't have any emotion. And so there could be, it can't be neutral, there can be biases in terms of selection of algorithms, for instance. Regarding the consequences of AI, some say, well, it is malignant, it is everywhere, it is ubiquitous, affecting society, all aspects of life of society. And in the future, some say, well, it may take over everything. That means it will achieve human intelligence. That means it can be as intelligent as human beings. So everything will be done by AI. And we don't know, we have to wait and see. And regarding technological advancement of AI, some say, well, there is no alternative to AI. So we have to embrace it. We don't have an alternative. Still, we don't know. There are others actually. So there could be, and this may not be true. This may be a misconception. Some say, well, it has to be regulated, but the regulation should be minimal. Others say, well, it is a solution to different problems that we have in society. So let's define AI, because as we have said, it is important that we know what it is. According to EU 2020, it is considered as a system which displays intelligent behavior by analyzing the environment and taking actions. When takes actions with some degree of autonomy, and it is needed to achieve specific goals. So you can see that it is defined as a system, and it can analyze, and it can take actions, and it is to some extent intelligent, and it can do activities autonomously with some degree of autonomy. The other definition is taken from Sheikh, Prince, and Stiver. It is defined as a technology that enables machines to imitate various complex human skills. So here it is also defined as a technology. Right here, in the EU definition, it is actually defined as a system, actually a system of technology. So it imitates complex human skills. It doesn't do like human beings, but it copies how human beings actually think when they actually exhibit complex skills. As you can see, it is not easy to define AI because it is a technology that is evolving, and it is also very complex. And how is it evolving? The other question is, if it is evolving, how is it evolving? By the way, it has, according to EU, it has three phases. The first phase is where we have symbolic AI. Here, we create precise rule-based procedures that can be followed by a computer to decide to respond intelligently to a given situation. This is the first phase of AI. We call it symbolic AI, or some call it a weak AI. The second phase in which we are now is data-driven AI. Here, things can be automated through learning of algorithms, and it bypasses human aspects of the first wave of AI. That means here, as you can see, that is data-driven, it is automatic, and it doesn't have to. In some cases, it can make some decisions. The third phase that we expect to come in the future is known as speculative AI. It is a strong type of AI. Some say it is super intelligent. It refers to algorithms that can exhibit intelligence in a wide range of contexts. This is something that we expect that will come in the future. Well, for AI to exist or maybe to advance, there are three things that are needed. They are called drivers of AI. Scientific breakthroughs in the AI is important, all right, because it is based on scientific findings. And more computing powers are needed because AI actually, you know that it takes a huge amount of data. So large data is needed. These are drivers of AI. And some of them are still, we have them. For instance, we can have a huge amount of data, but computing power is still evolving, and scientific breakthroughs are actually, some of them are there still. Some scientific activity should be done in the future in order to improve the performance of AI. As a second point that we need to actually look at is contextualization. It is used to understand a new technology. When a new technology comes or when it emerges, we need to, in order to understand it, we need to put it in a particular domain. All right, we need to identify the actors which are affected, and actors who are affected and those who are involved in using it and in pursuing its functionality in a particular domain, for instance, lexicography. So you know that there is what is known as generative AI, which is around now, like ChatGPT, Bird, Clued. In this talk, I want to focus on ChatGPT because it is a generative AI that actually is thought to be affecting lexicography. So what is ChatGPT? It is a language model developed by OpenAI that uses deep learning to generate human-like responses to natural language queries. So you query or you ask a question and it actually gives a question to you as well. A response to your question is ChatGPT, and some of you may be using it. So the question is, what are the impacts of ChatGPT on lexicography? Because ChatGPT is being used in some contexts in order to compile lexicography, as we'll see. And how could we respond to the impact of ChatGPT or other AI tools? And this will take us to engagement. When a new technology appears, we engage it. All right. This engagement focuses on the people affected by the system, for instance, AI, and the actors who, therefore, are or need to be involved within it. So how do we engage AI? In different ways. Some fight, all right? This has to do with resistance. Others walk out. Others, they don't want to talk about it. They don't want to use it. Others protest, all right? They go for banning it, or they don't want that to be around. Others embrace it, but they monitor it. So they embrace it under certain supervision, and they set an agenda in order to harness how it can be used. And after they have embraced it, cooperation is needed because AI is everywhere, all right? In order to improve it, in order to effectively use it, cooperation is important because different countries are racing in order to improve AI in terms of doing different activities. So it is important that we evaluate the potential application of AI in lexicography. So there are studies which have evaluated the use of large language models, particularly ChatGPT, in lexicography. And we can look at some of the reviews by D. Schiver. And as you can see that in some areas, the ChatGPT is doing well or AI is doing well. In other areas, its performance is very poor. So you can see that the findings are not conclusive, showing that, as I have said, the performance in some areas good, in some areas very poor. And so what are the experts' opinion about the use of AI lexicography? Let's look at how some experts respond to the application of AI in lexicography. Discover and Jove 2023 argue that AI can augment the production rate and the quality of lexicographic products. So we can use AI in order to augment production rate and increase the quality of lexicographic products. So you can see that these writers are saying we have to embrace it so that we can improve the quality of lexicographic products. And Barrett 2023 think that the best result, that could be human input at the beginning for best result, that is to arrive at the optimal prompt via trial and error. And at the end, it is important to clean up the output. Still, this writer is also saying we can embrace it, but there are areas we can use it effectively. For instance, we can give it some kind of activity, and we don't totally rely on it, and post-editing is very important. And Randall 2023 argues that large language models are black boxes, very difficult to explain them to users. And the outputs are not deterministic. That means you can't reproduce the same output. If you give it the same query, you may get different responses, which means that the output is not deterministic. And so for the time being, the writer argues that it does not herald the end of lexicography. So you can see that these writers say, well, we have to actually engage it, and we have to use it, but we have to use them with care. We have to use it with care. And Randall and his friend says lexicographers are still needed to compile dictionaries, and Makin and Fitzgerald says there are biases, gender biases, racial biases, socioeconomic biases, when lexicography is done with AI. And the outcome cannot be reliable. And authority is also needed, and AI cannot be authoritative. Like, for instance, those companies which produce dictionaries are very authoritative. But when it comes to AI, it can't be authoritative. And copyright issues are also raised by these people. So others say, well, we can use AI. Still, Rachel and his friends say we can use AI, but AI should be used in post-editing. So the first one is regulation. Frankly speaking, regulation is needed. When a new technology emerges, it is important to have rules that regulate or that govern how it can be used, how that technology can be produced, and how it can advance in the future. For instance, general data protection regulation is important, and this is particularly important for lexicography. Because if you take ChatGPT, we don't know what this tool can get those data, those responses that it provides us. So the copyright issue is very important. So regulation is needed. When it comes to regulation, well, before we formulate regulations, we need to know whether we have existing rules that can be applied to this new technology. If there are rules that can still be applied to ChatGPT or other AI tools, those existing rules can be valid. If they need amendment, they can be amended in different ways. So regulations are needed to prevent the uncontrolled introduction of high-risk applications like ChatGPT, for instance, in dictionary making. So we have a technology, and that technology should be used, and how should it be used, and what effect does it have on the environment, on the structure of society, and in order to actually harness and use AI tools, regulation is needed. Positioning has to do the race that we see among countries for AI. Countries are looking for developing their own AI. By the way, countries have different capacities as far as AI is concerned. For instance, if you take the USA and China, these are the two world leaders when it comes to AI, because they have all the ecosystems and things that are needed for developing AI. The UK, Germany, France, Japan, Canada, and Russia are also actors, all right? And the small countries like for instance, Israeli, they're working hard in order to develop AI in a particular area. So regarding the race, there are perceptions. Some say when there is a race, there is no one winner. This is really true, because every country wants to develop its own AI, and that country may excel in a particular area. And that particular area, that country is a winner. In other areas, other countries can excel and they can be winners. And there is no one goal. Yes, countries have different goals and different problems. They want to apply AI tools to solve their own problems. The problems are different in different countries. And public values do not prevent innovations. Well, yes, innovations may appear against in defense of public values, but the public may engage and harness the new technology so that its value can be protected. And as far as innovation is concerned, no country can contain innovation within its own boundary. Innovations can diffuse, so AI cannot be kept within a particular country. It can diffuse. So regarding the race, what is important is cooperation instead of competing. Countries actually should cooperate instead of competing among themselves. This is the position of AU 2020. So lexicography, if there is cooperation instead of competing, lexicography can benefit from this. And if, for instance, countries just ignore cooperating, and if they keep on competing, lexicography can be a victim. So the conclusion is that, well, lexicography is not disappearing. Rather, it is changing. It is transforming itself. So what are the roles of lexicographers in the era of AI? Guiding, refining, increasingly automated tools, one of the roles, fundamental roles, and they can ensure ethical linguistic data use. They can counteract AI biases, and they need to recognize actually this time the multidisciplinary nature of lexicography, because lexicography is becoming now multidisciplinary. Lexicographers, as they used to do in the past, they can't do it on their own. They need to cooperate with other disciplines. So they can also use AI within the framework of international regulations or national regulations that are any. So way forward, what should be done? We need to be careful when we look at the studies we have seen. The findings about the impacts of AI on lexicography are not conclusive, they are tentative, as you can see, because they tell us in some areas AI tools are performing well, in the areas they are not. So still we need more studies. And because the fact that AI is still evolving and advancing, we need more studies. And the other thing is that AI is not fully embedded in society, particularly in African society. It is not well understood, and it has not become a part of society. It is not fully embraced in society, and some maybe in African countries, some people may not be aware of the existence of such a tool. And previous studies are, as you can see, they are limited in scopes because we don't have enough data regarding the perception of users. We don't know how users perceive the impact of AI on lexicography. So more studies are needed to have full understanding of the effect of AI on lexicography. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Feder. It was somehow even deeper and broader than I had expected. You didn't cover just lexicography, but some broader issues. So any questions or comments on that? So, Dr. Mulugeta, you're welcome.
Thank you very much, Feda. Do you hear me?
Yes. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you very much, Feda. It's a very insightful and thought-provoking presentation. It's very inspiring. So, I was wondering on your first conclusion before just the last slide. You said lexicography is transitioning rather than disappearing. But the way we see it, practically speaking, is just, lexicography is dying because, ChatGPT can do much more better than, traditional electronic dictionaries, paper dictionaries. Nobody now is checking, a word, the meaning of a word from electronic dictionary or from paper dictionaries. Have you used that? It's just ChatGPT can give you, many answers. If you are not satisfied, you can also go on until you, which is much better than lexicography. So how can you justify your conclusion in this if you see it from practical, user-based point of view? Thank you very much.
Okay. May I respond to that?
Oh, yes, please. We are waiting for your response.
Okay. So we know that lexicographers have 3 roles in the traditional senses. The first role is providing meanings of words for text production. All right, if you want to write a letter or something, or an article, if you are not sure of how a certain word is used, and you need to go to a dictionary and look up the meaning of that particular word and to see how it can be used. The question is, yes, as you've said, this role of lexicographers or lexicography is challenged, frankly speaking. The challenge is clear, but still it is relevant. For instance, if you take this particular role of traditional word for academic purpose, for something very serious, all right? And if you want to know how it can be used, still, for a person who is serious, actually, it is a matter that this guy should go to a dictionary. Because the definition that ChatGPT gives you may not be authoritative. How can you trust that? A reality that is taken from here and there, whose source is not known, and some of which are plagiarized. So for a person who is very serious, for something that we do, that is very serious, I don't think we can rely on ChatGPT for text production. The second role is, the second traditional role of lexicographers is comprehension, all right? For instance, when you read, you come across a difficult word, all right? I know that because I was teaching English for some years, we I would advise students, well, every time when you come across a new word, don't go to a dictionary. Rather try to just use context, try to guess from context. But sometimes the context may fail. You can't gauge the meaning of a particular word. That word is very key, and you can't guess its meaning. And I don't know whether you rely on ChatGPT or you trust ChatGPT when you read something very serious. All right? So still, I know that this role is also challenged, but still, for something serious, lexicographers are still relevant. The third one is translation. All right? Translators use bilingual dictionaries. You know that translators are very serious, particularly those who translate religious works are very serious. I don't think, let alone, they may not know even ChatGPT, frankly speaking. All right? And so they want to do things in the traditional way. So still, lexicographers are, and lexicography itself is relevant, but the traditional roles are very much challenged. And they have to actually embrace the new technologies, and they don't have to leave lexicography to ChatGPT. Still, they in the area that I have identified, they are still relevant. Particularly in Africa, lexicographers are very relevant. In your country as well.
Thank you very much. So there was a question from Yelizaveta Kozlova, wasn't there? Yelizaveta, are you ready with your question? Well, can't see you now. So, Svetlana, you are welcome with your question then.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Professor Negas, for your insightful presentation. And I actually share your optimism for cooperation of human and artificial intelligence. Can you comment a little bit on your statement? Because I always thought that actually post-editing is mostly and the crucial part for a human. And you, in your presentation, you mentioned that actually this is the role of AI, of post-editing. Can you contribute a little bit and explain what you mean by this?
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Yes, in areas where AI is relevant, some actually researchers commented on where AI could be relevant. All right, and well, as I have said, these findings are not conclusive. These are simply opinions. All right. Well, we can use to some extent AI to, for instance, to generate contents. In post-editing, so that you can employ AI, still humans are more important than AI. Human beings are, let me say, they do better than ChatGPT. And still, actually, as far as I'm concerned, this is the area where lexicographers are needed, more needed, right? And in other areas, actually, we can apply also AI, but the last one, the post-editing, human beings are very much needed, or lexicographers are very much needed. Regarding cooperation, well, countries, we don't know, by the way, countries have different interests regarding AI. Well, they can cooperate in terms of formulating regulations, international regulations, but they have their own AI projects. And we don't know whether those small AI projects in different countries can be regulated by those international rules or regulations. So we don't really know how much countries cooperate, but cooperation is needed, frankly speaking. In order to, cooperation is needed for everyone, because we can use AI productively if we cooperate. But if we compete among ourselves, frankly speaking, the potential of using AI may not be as good as where there is cooperation among countries. So cooperation is really needed.
Thank you very much, Dr. Feder. Dr. Mulugeta, another question?
Yeah. just let me make it very short because I have just my chance. You have touched one thing, which is like the role of AI on less studied languages from Africa. So how can, for example, lexicographers from less studied languages, which are less accessible to AI technologies, how can they benefit from technology, and how they can also cope up with the negative, probably, impacts of AI usage? So it's like two kind of questions, yeah.
This is really a difficult question. This is where we can see the bias, all right? Because you can see that AI tools, frankly speaking, most of them were trained on data taken from other countries, those big countries, and I don't know how much African countries have contributed, right? And because of this, we are underrepresented, and we can't fully use AI tools for African languages. In Africa, still traditional lexicography is very much relevant. But in the future, what should we do? Well, we can, by the way, it is very difficult because we can't develop our own AI tools because AI requires a huge amount of data. And African languages do not have online presence. They lack digital materials or resources. So what we can do is that, well, we can take pre-trained models, and we can fine-tune them with data from African languages, and so that AI can be relevant for African languages. But still in African language, the traditional way of doing lexicography is still relevant.
Well, thank you very much for the answer and for the question. Let me remind you that we have a presentation on the challenges of African digital lexicography a few minutes later. So now we can move on to more general questions. If AI is a comparatively recent development, digitalization in lexicography has been around for decades already. So maybe we can now somehow summarize developments and current trends in lexicography, and I'm giving the floor to Dr. Manik, who can do that probably. She can share her slides, and we can discuss her view of the present day's actually issues. Yes. Thank you, Svetlana. We can see your slides, and you're welcome with your presentation.
Thank you so much. It's my great pleasure to join this wonderful panel on digital issues of our science in general. So I hope you can see my presentation. Can you?
Yes, you can see the slides, and they're moving. It's okay.
Okay, wonderful. So, well, actually, I would like also to start in the mode as Professor Negas did, with a general outline of actually what is digital, because I wanted to draw the attention of the respected audience to the issue of digital lexicography. And actually, you see on the slide some notions, some ideas, what is digital. And if you are attentive and if you look through these definitions that I borrowed from different dictionaries, that you see definitely that we speak of something that is related to computers, related to internet, and then we have a little bit more specific issues, let's say even the format, like electronic form as a series of the numbers 1 and 0. And then at the same time, it's not only the text, but at the same time, it's about the visualization, let's say the images, let's say whether it's a text, whether it's a picture, whether it's any kind of video, etc., etc. And I continued my research and I asked corpus, actually, what can be digital? And as you can see in the findings, they list many things like digital articles, digital transformation, digital content, subscription, etc., etc. But I failed in finding anything connected with digital lexicography. So then I asked corpora, English-speaking corpora, I asked, let's say, what kind of lexicography there may be. And the answer also is on the screen. Since I like and I introduced political lexicography, I was happy to find out that there is actually political lexicography. And you can see I have 2 slides, what kind of lexicography that there may be. But unfortunately, again, no digital lexicography. And I thought that probably when we say digital lexicography, actually we mean mostly either digital tools or digital product. And that is why I inquired whether there is such a thing as digital dictionary. And here I am with the findings that yes, there is such a stuff. And actually, I think that today's world, with all these digital tools that are available at hand at the moment, we can say that lexicography and actually dictionaries, they have transformed tremendously. And I can figure out actually several ideas what a dictionary nowadays can be. So the first one is a really traditional one, so like dictionary as a reference book. And this is something that you and me, that we're all used to, actually dictionary as a source of some information. Like I consult a dictionary and I will get a definition, I will get pronunciation, some grammar information, etc., etc. And there is a trend, a very strong trend, that it's not only a single dictionary that you can consult, but we may call it like a dictionary network. And in any language, we have this dictionary network infrastructure, because actually it enables this efficient expandability of the author and the rapid integration of further resources. Let's say I can study and I can look for other languages for the translation. I can Google, like not Google, but I can look for other points on, let's say, synonyms or very specific resources, whether this is LSP or any other type of things. At the same time, if we continue talking about dictionary as a reference tool, then definitely the digital tools that help us actually to introduce the information in a little bit different format, because it's not only conventional ideas that I look for a particular word, but if I'm not sure and I have some slip in my memory and I might say, well, something at the back, what does it call? What shall I use? And then there is a reverse dictionary, and it can also help you to find for this very particular entry that you are looking for. So this is the reverse dictionary. Of course, we have such sources right now as lexical database, and I'm sure that you are familiar with WordNet, because this is free and this is available online. And actually, this is about every notional part of speech. I mean, noun, verb, adjective, adverb, and they are grouped into sets of cognitive synonyms. They call it synsets. And every group expresses a distinct concept. And the synsets are interlinked by means of conceptual, semantic, and lexical relations. And in a way, it resembles definitely thesaurus, but at the same time, because the words, they are grouped according to their meanings. But on the other hand, the WordNet, it interlinks not just word forms, so strings of letters, but specific senses of words. And as a result, words that are found in close proximity to one another in the network are semantically disambiguated. And at the same time, WordNet labels the semantic relations among words. And this is also pretty important. Then other resources, again, as a reference tool, that helps to systematize the data, because the challenge in today's tons of information is that to get a really precise piece of data that I'm looking for and such resources scale, it is pretty useful. And you can see some screenshots from this very resource. And I think we have more to do from the part of a human being. Then the second idea of a dictionary nowadays, like dictionary as a kind of book, as a text, because it differs from the notion that you consult a dictionary looking up for only one word, let's say, or what combination. In this case, you refer to a dictionary as a book, as a text. And within this book, I try to put it on the screen, actually, this text, it is united according to the rules of this text. So there is some sense and there's particular message. And as you can see that you just really go inside the text. It can be some fable, it can be a story with some morals that you think over and you come to the ideas of the entry that they are describing. Then this new business model of all dictionaries online, they make, this model makes actually lexicographers think of the way to earn money. And they just want us as users, as readers, stay with them as long as possible. That's why they have these ideas of word of the day, buzzwords, different forums, charts, games, quizzes, whatnot. And in this case, we have different even segments and parts on every resource that you can stay longer and you can dig in further for more information on it. And then, of course, as a text, in a way, different projects in the social networking. And here I can quote as an example a volunteers dictionary of political dictionary compiled by our students in the social net media of Contact. That they made up a dictionary with video entries because the young generation, they just reluctant to read sometimes text, so they just want to get everything visualized, okay? Then the third concept or the meaning of a dictionary can be a dictionary as a kind of vocabulary. So I mean kind of limited list of words. Like glossary on a particular topic or particular subject that I'm looking or that I'm studying. And I bet you can also recollect pretty many examples of this or that glossary. And then I would like to also refer to such a resource as Lexical Tutor, because they have already compiled different lists of words. They ranked them according to the frequency of usage. Or you can actually download your own text and you can see the frequencies, and you see this K2, K3, etc., etc. This is like K2, it means 200 most popular words. And if you see key 21, let's say here on the screen, it means that pretty rare words in this very text. And you see desertification as example, etc., etc. And finally, since the users, they tend to a little bit different model of interaction with a dictionary. That is why dictionary at the same time, it has started interacting with the readers. That is why I put dictionary as a kind of interactive system. And then we have games, we have quizzes, we stay longer with this, we compile something by ourselves, we contribute our examples, or even the whole entries. And then Urban Dictionary is a brilliant example of this very system of cooperation. And as a kind of concluding stuff about the dictionary, I should say that then a dictionary in the 21st century, it is not just a reference system, it's something in between, because in order to be successful with a user, then it needs to provide a lot of information, it needs to cooperate, to interact, and to be open to comments, likes, and dislikes at the same time. And of course, digitalization, it's not only about transforming the product, I mean, dictionary as a product, but at the same time giving a tool to lexicographers in order to compile a dictionary or to compile some corpora. And that is why I would like to show you a source, Publix, probably you're also familiar with this, where you can actually download your data from TXT-ML format, and it compiles a dictionary, and you can publish it a little pretty easily. And then corpora, on the one hand, as a resource that contributes to our understanding of all the events and effects happening in the language nowadays. And you can consult in any language nowadays, English, Russian, or African languages. I hope that the next speaker will contribute and enlarge our knowledge on these tools. Also, we can make up our own corpus and work with it and make further, let's say, research and describe what is actually happening in the world. So then, concluding remarks as conclusions of everything that I've just mentioned are the following. I put them like as challenges in the digital age because recently, due to this rapid development of a new cognitive communicative environment, and at the same time strengthening of the status of the natural language in lexicography, because we want to get empirical data and we want to describe the real language, and we do not prescribe but describe what is happening. So then these are the challenges. So the first one, as you can see, is to digitalize everything, convert the printed lexicographic heritage into digital form. But then, as you understand, it requires a pretty specific technology, because if you just simply make a PDF or take a photo and download it online, it won't be effective. I think you understand, because you cannot do anything and you cannot actually make a corpus out of it. And there is no, let's say, character recognition software, right? And you cannot index this very text. That is why I'm talking about special technology that will help actually to put it in the real form that you can analyze it. And in this respect, if this is probably not with the language and what is happening in it nowadays, but maybe with a little bit of diachronic perspective, what was in the past, because we have pretty many wonderful books and collections that they turned into PDF version, but actually you cannot easily work with them. You still have to do it manually without the help of artificial intelligence, what actually Professor mentioned before. The second challenge, I think, it is related to updating the lexicon. And this is the problem of updating the fundamental lexicographic works and then bringing it very close and bring it in the line with new realities, updating, modifying according to the content and presentation and the structure at the same time. And of course, here, when I say update, it is also connected with making it in a digital format, in this text-readable format, in the indexed form, that we can work, analyze it, study it somehow, and then maybe compile a lexicon, compile any kind of reference book. The third challenge, I put it as usage of a large dictionary areas for forming a linguistic component systems of knowledge representation. And this requires to identify hidden semantic structure in the traditional vocabulary text. And on the other hand, ontologies and compsographic problems, they stimulate active and really substantive integration of lexicography and modern knowledge industry. And in the digital lexicography, The focus has shifted from the describing of or the description of units and language relations to a very practical oriented thing, to modeling of linguistic competence, right? So it means that in the digital lexicographic systems models of language understanding subjected to lexicographic representation, so they must help user get this competence. And let's say if I deal with inflection of inflected language, so the corresponding digital system must at least be able to make words decomposition to the variable and invariable part. And the variable part identifies part of the description of a certain paradigmatic class. And of course, more advanced systems, they can equip oneself with smarter functions for the completion and development of the inflectional system, adding, modifying, and editing of paradigmatic classes set, and then advanced morphological, phonemic, semantic, and etymological analysis of this inflectional system. And here I also imply this correlation between vocabulary and grammar, because you remember this triangle, not triangle, but this, let's say, interconnection that was studied by pretty many scholars. And I think that relationship between the grammatical and lexicographic description should be explored further. And the vocabulary, for example, is specialized in the description of the, let's say, vocabulary or repertoire of language units, while grammar, it's the description of the rules and how to connect them in such a way that the user gets his or her very best in getting the meaning and the understanding of the units. The next challenge, I think it is closely connected with this multilingualism problem, because we live in a very big world nowadays, and we do want to interact and communicate. And of course, English is not the only language for communication. Of course, we have to appreciate and we have to study pretty many languages. And this problem of multilingualism, I think it requires some powerful and pretty flexible lexicographic tools in order to be solved. And of course, primarily we use computer tools of multilingual lexicographic representation in remote mode. And this technology should provide a really creative interaction between lexicographically allocated international lexicographers teams. And I'm really happy that we work and discuss these issues nowadays together with our African colleagues. And I'm sure that we'll start cooperating and working on languages, on the description of the languages and compiling the corpora. And finally, two more things, but they are not least important, because, of course, our users, they are used to get everything free. And they are pretty rarely ready to pay for the content. Unfortunately, our students, they just simply prove this. They are not ready to pay anything. And the last issue and this challenge to be personalized. I wish I had my own dictionary in a way that I like, and that it would give me the information at the right time with the right amount of detailization that I want. And this is pretty challenging and pretty difficult. And here I will make a stop, and I hope that respected colleagues will contribute to further discussion.
Well, thank you. Yeah, that really looks not like conclusion, but more like a start of the discussion, because lots of questions were asked at the end of. So anybody ready to answer some of these questions, or maybe to ask more questions of Svetlana, of Professor Monik? Yes. So Yulia, you are ready. You are welcome with your question.
Thank you very much for your presentation. I have a question concerning getting competence. The thing is that when we teach our students in linguistic university, when we teach lexicography, one of the compulsory tasks is to teach them how to use paper dictionary, dictionary article. But now we have a challenge. We need to teach them how to use online dictionary, although it seems to be obvious that they know how to get information, but we have a lot of issues if we want to prepare competent linguists in general. Can you outline what problem questions do you teach at your university if we speak about electronic dictionaries and online dictionaries?
Yulia Viktorovna, thank you very much for your question. This is a very vital issue to my mind, because sometimes I'm surprised when a student confesses that he or she prefers printed dictionaries. But it happens, this is a unique case, because in most cases they have it either like as some apps or as an online dictionary. On the other hand, I usually give them some sentences, some tricky sentences that actually it may pose a challenge both to AI to translate, and at the same time, it's not easy to find a definition, a right-off definition in a dictionary. And they just spend some time in order to understand and in order to translate this very sentence. And then we start to dig in with these words that are difficult, okay? And then in this case, we show them the types of dictionaries that exist, let's say starting from a dictionary of a national language and then come into a little bit more specific dictionaries. And I think that you say they seem to know, and I think you are very right in this let's say presentation of the problem, because unfortunately students, they really seem to know. And then if we question whether this thing is correct, I think that it helps to build this competence. Mm-hmm. And what do you do, Yulia? How do you teach them?
Well, actually, the first issue that we discuss is trustworthiness of dictionaries, so that you just mentioned in your presentation different types of dictionaries, and we need to understand the approach the compilers use when they make this digital product. And for example, their favorite context traverser, it may be not very trustworthy in solving particular linguistic tasks, and we just discuss which dictionary is suitable for which task, and how we need to prove the information. And they also, and you mentioned that in your conclusion, one of the challenge is the system of lexicon and the semantic relations. And different authors who compiled these online products have various theoretical backgrounds. And we need to know them first in order to use them. But an average user doesn't even think about it. And we are used to believing that what is mentioned in the dictionary is true and correct and trustworthy. So this is the main problem that I need to teach them.
Right. And then on the other hand, I would like to comment a little bit at the same time that I remember probably 10 years ago, I just was a witness of the presentation of Erin McCain. She's one of the, let's say, initiator and author of the project Wordnik, and she compared herself with a fisherman.
Yeah.
She is a lexicographer, and she said, every morning I go and I use the net in the language in order to catch new words or to catch the new meanings of the words. And I was struck by this comparison, but I think this is very true, because what we have in the dictionary, this is probably less than 40% of what we really have in the language, because you understand that the language is changing very, very fast, and no dictionary can be as fast as the changes. And this is very true to any language, okay, because we are developing very fast. So that is why I think every year you can find those examples to make students think of those resources that they can use in order to either get the translation or maybe to render the meaning, what is really meant by this very statement.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you.
Oh, thank you very much. So Dr. Mulugeta has got a question. We're listening to him.
Yes, thank you, Professor Monique, for your interesting presentation on digital lexicography. So I was wondering, it's a very silly question probably, what's the difference between electronic lexicography or dictionary with the digital dictionaries, digital lexicography? Also probably, so based on your presentation, I was wondering what are your thoughts about the future of digital lexicography in light of, for example, lexicography becoming more inclusive, for example. For example, I think it's just a few months ago in our department, we have colleagues from the sign language program unit have published the sign language dictionary. So it's a digital one. So how can this kind of for example, others, for example, visually impaired people can benefit from this digitalization and all this. Thank you very much for your insightful presentation.
Thank you so much. I think that your question is a very good one, and it's no way naive or silly, because how to drop the line between digital electronic, because when the internet first appeared, there was the concept like e-lexicography, and sometimes they put it as cyber lexicography. And I think that this is just the thing of naming, because nowadays digital, I think that this is more broader term, because electronic, this is just like the form, but digital, it's form plus like tools, how to work with this data. As for the future, so I want to be really optimistic about the future, and as I mentioned that I couldn't agree with Professor De Schrijver with his statement, the end of lexicography. I think that we will come step by step to some very unique, a very individualized and personalized product for every user. Let's say, as I dream of my preferences, even sometimes the font, the size of the font or the color of the print, sometimes it may be important. On the other hand, let's say, if I, in my everyday life, read more texts on politics or sport or fashion or any other sphere, then probably my dictionary would also adjust to my preferences and interests, and it would first of all provide me with the translations or the entries related to these spheres. And I think that this is really important, because sometimes if it's a word with more than 20 meanings, it takes time to read and to get the real meaning of the word that you're looking at the moment. And I think that this AI tool will really help every user to be happy and to be satisfied with the reference tool he or she is using. What do you think? How do you see the future of lexicography? I'm just really curious, if I may ask.
Yeah, in my view, it's just, from the world that we're living here, it's just it seems that the AI has no challenge, but still also we are far from, benefiting from it, especially, developing dictionaries for local languages which has no much linguistic data, corpus data, and also probably also we have some of the languages we have, including the major languages like Amharic, we use different scripts, which is also which poses some challenge. And also we have, deaf communities, as I have raised. It's also a challenge in relation to having stronger and much bigger database for that, because these pictures, they need much space. I mean, in terms of the digital accessibility and all this, I see the challenge more. But yeah, let's keep our fingers crossed for the future.
Thank you. Dr. Feder, I can see your hand. Will you please ask your question? We are waiting for that.
Thank you very much. This is really very interesting because some people confuse the term or the phrase electronic dictionary with digital dictionary. So your presentation is really interesting in making a distinction between the two. Maybe I am wondering, when I look at the materials that you have presented, the different forms of lexicograph materials that we have online, we can't, some of them cannot even, we can't call them a dictionary, frankly speaking. They are simply system of lexicons. Or, well, we need to find a different name for those things because they don't really represent the kind of lexicography or dictionary that we know. And because some of them are very much individualized, as you have said, just tailor-made to some few individuals. And this actually may lead to tearing apart things that could be present together. And for instance, in traditional lexicography, the paper-based, we can a lot of information in one package. But now those pieces of information are taken apart, and some are presented somewhere, others are presented somewhere else, and getting different names. Still, the base I can say the base is a traditional dictionary. And what people are doing now is they just take some aspect and they tailor-made those aspects to satisfy the needs of some individuals. This is, I want to know your comment on this. The other one is, how can we be sure that those lexicographic materials are actually made by lexicographers themselves? How can we be sure about the writers? Because online sources are very difficult to trust. And how can we trust them? For instance, in terms of authority, how trustworthy the information that they present that users? Thank you.
Thank you so much. I'm really impressed by my audience because you have got the really essence of my presentation. So I think answering the first question, like system but not a dictionary, I think that actually here is a kind of competition between a dictionary in a classical understanding of a dictionary as a reference book, and at the same time any search engine, let's say, because many students, I don't know with your university, but pretty often at my university, students, they just simply Google what they want. Sometimes they do not look up into the dictionary, right? Unless we ask them for this precisely. And I think that these new forms of lexicography, they are kind of feedback to this new reality when students prefer to get it fast through the search engine. And I think it's pretty interesting, sometimes I read and I come across with different lexicographic projects in Russia And sometimes you just say, my God, how can I understand and how can I look for a particular word in this product? Because sometimes the people, they present, for example, a vocabulary of a precise year, for example, 2020, let's say the pandemic, and they put like categories like months, January, February, March, etc., etc., and within every month, this alphabetical list of the words that appeared in the language at this very moment of time. So pretty interesting project from this cognitive perspective of seeing and registering actually what happened in the language, to see all these changes and maybe to trace the trend. So I think that it's pretty interesting from the point of view of lexicographic development. So I dare call still them dictionaries or dictionary as a reference book. As for your ideas about the authority of dictionary, especially online, this is a very good question. It brings us back to Yulia, let's say, how to teach. The first thing, and we start talking, this reference book. Held it. And this is very important because this person may be an expert in a very precise sphere of the subject matter, but lack linguistic, let's say, competence. And of course, in this case, we cannot call this dictionary reliable, but for some experts, that would be a treasure actually to work with this dictionary. That is why the issue of this volunteering project, I think it requires further research and further study, and probably to get a little bit more information about the authors and all those dictionaries and dictionary projects in social networking. They're interesting, but again, with pretty many but. Interesting but, informative but.
Thank you very much. I would like everybody to know the pedagogical, educational implications which we come across again and again. I have got a suggestion about that. But another thing, it's the question of universality of approaches, whether the same approaches and challenges appear with the lexicography in general or in lexicography of specific languages, which brings us to the presentation of Dr. Derib about challenges and insights in African lexicography specifically, which has been mentioned several times already in the presentations of the first two panelists.
Okay, thank you. So,
now we can see Dr. Derib's slides, and
okay, thank
we are
you.
ready for his presentation.
Okay, thank you very much. The two presentations have built ample background for the presentation here, so I'm not going to talk about what is digital lexicography or electronic lexicography, and I'll just keep talking about digital lexicography for African languages, focusing on their challenges. The outline of the presentation is as follows. I'll talk a little bit about African languages, and I'll talk about lexicography of African languages, because digital lexicography is a follow-up of traditional lexicography, I believe. And if we don't have that, it is very difficult to move to digital lexicography. And I'll move to resources for digital lexicography of African languages, particularly talking about text and speech corpus available, challenges that African lexicographers have faced so far, and their prospects for the future. So coming to Africa, if we look at the mainland Africa, we have 4 language filers. We have Afro-Asiatic spoken in the northern part of Africa in blue. Nilo-Saharan somewhere in the middle, including Chad, South Sudan, part of Ethiopia, Uganda, and Kenya. We have Niger-Congo, which is the largest phyla in Africa, the largest phylum. Almost half of Africa speaking these, and we have Kwazan in southern part of Africa. And we have also Indo-European languages spoken in South Africa, and we have Austronesian languages spoken in Madagascar. The number of African languages is disputed. It's not well known in terms of number. One reason being there is no proper study of the languages, and another reason is the line between dialect and language. This is a global phenomenon, of course, but when the languages are not well studied and when there is ethnic politics, the issue of language and dialect becomes a bit difficult. African languages, main African languages, we have include those that are spoken by like 100 million speakers or more, like Swahili, which is a kind of cross-border language. We also have other languages such as Hausa, Yoruba, Igbo in Nigeria, which are spoken by 30 or 40 million speakers or more. And we have languages like Oromo, Amharic, which are spoken by like 20 or 30 million people or more. And we have other languages such as Zulu and Shona, which are spoken by like 10 million speakers or more. And we have also languages which are quite endangered and are spoken by very few people, from 2 to hundreds and a few thousands. Lexicography of African languages has a long history, but it is almost tied to kind of colonization and exploration. In a study published in 1990, there were the people were able to access like 2,600 African lexicons. It's not difficult. It's difficult to say they are all proper dictionaries, but 2,600 African lexicons for African languages, for about 1,250 up to 2,000 languages, depending on how we count. And we can compare these with English, which has like 6,700 dictionaries in the same time. And more than half of these are mere word lists, and most of them were compiled by Europeans or Americans for their purposes. There are purposes such as exploration. They want to learn the people's culture, languages. So, as you know, most of the early grammars and the lexicons were compiled by expatriates for evangelization purposes, and later for the translation of the Holy Bible into local languages in Africa. And actually that leads to another purpose, which is colonization. In terms of digital dictionaries available online, 200 internet dictionaries were accessed for 120 languages in Africa by 2023. This number, I think, has increased a lot in the past 20 years. Now it is 2024. Again, most of these internet dictionaries also could not be considered proper dictionaries because most of them have just word lists in one or two or three languages. As we're going to see a bit later on, most of the dictionaries compiled in Africa, both by Europeans or Americans plus Europeans, and later by the Africans themselves, are at least bilingual or trilingual or just multilingual. And African languages plus major European languages such as English, French, Portuguese, or others. I can just give you an example of the dictionaries that have been produced in Ethiopia in the past like 350 or so years. This is a partial list of dictionaries produced in a study by Getachew and Malkamu in 2011. So you can see here, of the 32 dictionaries, we have like 2 monolingual dictionaries. And if you look at the names here, most of the compilers or the writers are Western. Some of them have additional Ethiopians, but some of them have just purely European authors. So you can see the bilingual dictionaries dominating the production in Ethiopia, and this is also the case in other countries. If we look at the earlier data, which says like 2,600 dictionaries or lexicons for 1,250 or 2,000 languages of Africa, because these dictionaries are produced for very popular languages or the languages that have a lot of speakers. Many of African languages do not have dictionary of any type. As you know, many of the languages also do not have writing systems. To date, new orthographies are being developed for many African languages, including those in Ethiopia. And of the available dictionaries, full-fledged monolingual dictionaries are quite scarce. And even if there are monolingual dictionaries and bilingual dictionaries, those that are considered to be proper dictionaries also have limited lexicographic information. And the main purpose of those dictionaries were decoding rather than encoding. So just to understand what type of word it is, what it means, not really meant to use for writing and others. Most of the dictionaries were written by non-experts. And we have seen there were wrong part of speech tagging or wrong pronunciations provided, as Getachew and Malkamu have already pointed out in their 2011 study. This is just an example of the English Setswana bilingual dictionary from Princelow 2015. For the letter D, you can see this is just a kind of terminology. You have a word, and then you have a part of speech, and then it is translation. So it's just like kind of parallel corpora rather than a proper dictionary. Most of the dictionaries are like this. Now, what resources do we have for digital lexicography of African languages? We know African languages are not well represented in the web, and this has to do with the availability of content. I looked at a sketch engine, which provides about 127 corpora, and in the section that presents about the languages that are supported, it lists about 60 languages, but what we have actually here are not more than really 10. And these include Afrikaans, Amharic, Hausa, Oromo, Setswana, Somali, Swahili, Tigrinya, and Yoruba. These are text corpora, and most of them are web archived corpora. So I can talk about, for instance, those that are here for Amharic, for Somali, for Tigrinya, and for Oromo. These are web archived text corpora compiled from 2013 to 2017 or 2013 to 2017, during which we had a collaborative project with the University of Oslo and the Norwegian University of Science and Technology and Hawassa University, and another project with the University of Masaryk at Brno in Czech Republic. As far as spoken corpora of African language is concerned, this is even more limited. We have one project which helped us produce spoken corpora for 8 Ethiopian languages, including Amharic, Gumar, Hadiya, Hamar, Kambata, Mohor, Oromo, and Tigrinya. And the maximum that we had there is about like 45 hours, probably for Amharic and Oromo, and about 40 hours for Kambata and Tigrinya, and I think, for these languages. We found another speech corpus, which is about 42 hours for Yoruba. Look here, we have just Amharic and Oromo and Tigrinya. We have more than like 5 million speakers. Also, we don't find here Hausa, which has like 40 million speakers also. Another work suggested there was a plan to work on 9 South African languages on a spoken corpora in 2004. But in 2010, they reported work for only 4 languages. There are other independent corpora like the isiZulu National Corpus, University of KwaZulu-Natal, which has about 20 million words, and Helsinki Swahili Corpus, hosted by the Language Bank of Finland, about 25 million words. And look at the number of words, it's 25 million words. The biggest we had so far is for Somali, which has like 71 million words. And this is mainly because of the expatriate who write and blog in Somali, not those really living in Africa. And we also have another small corpus for Amharic, the Amharic News Corpus, about 210,000. And most of these text corpora, apart from, I think, isiZulu and the Swahili, a little bit apart from this small Amharic News Corpus, most of the corpora that we have are not post-tagged. And we can also see the implication of this lack of digital resources for African languages, because translation comes after lexicography. What we can find immediately as an application is translation, and in Google Translate I could only find 17 languages that are supported by Google Translate, and I'm not sure how much accurate these translations are, but as far as Amharic concerned, There is an ongoing work by a colleague of ours, Dr. Desalegn, that tries to identify how much accurate translations are being made. You can just compare this with English, which has like a lot of corpora with tens of billions and hundreds of millions of words. I'll pass quickly to the challenges that African languages are facing with regards to digital lexicography. Often governments talk about, developing languages. We have a lot of liberation fronts in the name of different ethnic groups in Africa. But any government of any ethnic group or whatever is not really committing to fund works that take them to the digital era. We have a lot of languages to be worked on, but we have very few experts in corpus development, and we have a lack of infrastructure. Processing text-to-speech corpora requires infrastructure, but we lack them. Even universities that have like 50, 60 years of experience do not have computational facilities. It's just quite recently that tier 2, tier 3 type of data centers are being built, so perhaps in the future we may have them. African languages are not well represented on the web, so we have lack of content. What we can find in terms of content is written materials, and scanning and putting them requires a lot of effort. We have, for those that are already online, we have a limited balance of genres. For Amharic, Oromo, Tigrinya, and the Somali corpora, we have two major themes. They are either political or religious. So any corpora you find in these languages, the majority of them are either political or religion. African languages are not well studied, but they have also very complex grammar, so we don't have really post-taggers, tizers, stemmas that have been developed for them. There are some works here and there as a master's and PhD dissertations, but they are not implemented yet. There is one post-tagger that I know for Amharic that has been implemented, but it's not adequate. We have a lot of online dictionaries and dictionary apps, and these were developed mainly by tech interests, but not by linguists. And as a result, the information that we have is limited. Electronic dictionaries have this advantage of providing unlimited information. So we can have a lot of examples. We can include pronunciation. We can include information on inflection and some derivation. And all these come due to limited dictionary making culture in Africa. So you can see, for instance, one online Amharic English online dictionary, and I just gave it a word, house or bet, and you can see, though there are several senses or several words here, we just have one word. And this is because this is not done by a proper linguist. All these challenges may not continue in the future. Some of them may get solved. For instance, we have seen a lot of experts being trained, not in linguistics, but in computational linguistics or in other areas like computer science. We have seen some people getting trained, for instance, in Tanzania, while working on the Kiswahili corpus. And we can find a lot of masters and PhD dissertations in language technology, focusing on corpora and others that are really necessary for digital lexicography. Thanks to the use of cloud infrastructure these days, people can use cloud to process data, so physical infrastructure may not be a must at the moment. So some students of ours have used like the Google computing resources, though there are no free lunch. Perhaps some of their data made up and there, but there is no way. It's better to use these infrastructure and move a little bit ahead instead of getting stuck. A lot of apps are being developed, and developing apps is no more a myth in Africa. So dictionary apps are being developed on daily basis. And though we are still lagging behind, we have now a bit better internet coverage, a bit better coverage of smartphones, at least in cities and towns. And we have a lot of good examples to learn from, and that helps us move a little bit forward. We have ongoing projects, for instance, in Addis Ababa and in Hawassa. We're working on an Oromo monolingual digital dictionary. We had a paper dictionary, and we are trying to improve it by adding some information like pronunciation, examples, and checking definitions and part of speech. We are also working on Amharic monolingual dictionary, making it digital again. And we are still working on Sidama monolingual dictionary with colleagues from Hawassa University. And looking at these and other projects elsewhere, I hope we'll see a lot of digital dictionaries that are produced by linguists. Thank you very much.
Well, thank you, Dr. Derib. Now we have a question from Olga Karpova from Ivanova, head of the Lexicographic School there. So, Olga Mikhailovna, you're welcome with your question.
Thank you. Thank you, dear colleague, for very impressive and detailed description, overview of all African lexicographic resources. I have never imagined that there are so many, even before digital lexicography. Of course, digital lexicography is a new word in the world, but traditions are always very important. I wonder, are there any surveys? How many users, what is the percentage of users in Africa who apply and use dictionaries in printed and digital format? Thank you.
I haven't particularly looked at the surveys, but I would have found them if they really existed. Perhaps Dr. Feda also made some kind of reading on dictionary usage. If he has found surveys, you could help me.
Dr. Feda, somehow you get the question addressed to you.
So Derib is very wise. The ball is kicked to me.
Yeah, because you studied that. Yeah. As far as by the way, the question is very interesting. Yeah. But this question also applies to the use of ChatGPT. And we don't have a survey of how people use ChatGPT when they want to find the meaning of a particular dictionary. I mean, a particular word. That could be for writing or for understanding. As far as my reading is concerned, by the way, African lexicography is at primitive stage, at infant stage, and no such survey actually I have come across in my reading. And I guess in the future, we will do one in order to understand that. This is a very interesting question, and I hope in the future we'll have an answer to your question. Thank you very much for asking.
Thank you. One more small question. Do you teach dictionary use for your students?
No. We teach at PhD level most of the time, and we teach them how to make digital dictionaries, the approach. Otherwise, we don't really focus on the dictionary use.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Dr. Mulugeta has got another question.
Yes, just a follow-up question. So my question is how people are ready to use digital resources. Because, from especially people prefer like non-digital materials from our end. So what can we do to improve the usage of digital resources, even if we have small? Thank you.
Yeah, I think things are getting a little bit faster here. Like things are getting digital. So if you look at the pattern, a few years ago, everything was on paper. Like for instance, even payments, traffic payments, and so on were done at a bank using cash, and now we do them using mobile applications. People have accustomed to this very easily. These are done on daily basis. Utilities are now being paid from mobile applications. So people are now accustomed. Even those that do not have smartphones get somebody to pay for them. I don't know how long you have, for instance, you yourself, Dr. Mulugeta, been visiting the Addis Ababa University main library. I haven't gone to the library for the past how many years. I just remember going there once in the last 6 or 7 years. And that's only because I wanted to find a book that was not available online. So the same is true for a dictionary. In the past, we used to have big dictionaries in our homes. The last time that I bought a dictionary, a hard copy dictionary, is like 6 or 7 years ago. And now, not only me, my children do not want to refer to a word in the dictionary that I had them. I put those dictionaries at home, and I wanted my children to search for words from those dictionaries. And they don't like. They wanted to look at them as a dictionary app. So I think the problem we have is the other way. People are getting more digital, and we have quite less digital resources. We need to keep up the momentum to satisfy the needs of people. So even children at high school and at primary school know what ChatGPT is. So it's not like, it may not be the entire population in Ethiopia, but there are people who know this and who are using it, and we have to work harder to meet their demands. I think we have now more demand than resources as far as digital lexicography is concerned in Ethiopia or in Africa.
Thank you very much. So Svetlana has got another question.
Yes, thank you very much. Professor Addis, thank you very much. I'm very impressed by this tremendous work that's been done in African lexicography. And I just share this enthusiasm on preserving the language in general. Am I right? When you demonstrated the list in this historical perspective, am I right that there was only one monolingual dictionary in 2003, because all others were bilingual or even trilingual? Am I right in this?
This is a partial list. There is also another list by local people who have produced dictionaries, and there are some more monolingual dictionaries by them. But in the list, you are right.
Mm-hmm. And then I'm sorry if I'm wrong, but I've got such a feeling that you are very classical in the traditions to describe the words. And I just would like to refer probably a little bit more to the question that Professor Karpova asked, whether you study expectations of the users, you indicate that they turn to be more digitalized. Do you study them? And I hope that maybe it's just my feeling. And when I say very classical, I mean just the traditions like entry, pronunciation, grammar, and definition of the word. Do you welcome some new projects to describe in a little bit unusual, probably way, African languages?
Yeah, I think things change because we have a dictionary making culture in the world, not only just in Africa. We learn from what others have done. Now we know there is a different approach for dictionaries. Pronunciations are produced both in audio and in text, in IPA or other conventional writing format. Now we have more examples from corpora, even citing whether it is a text or a spoken corpora, and there are specialized dictionaries. We have now different ways of defining, like the Wayne type of defining, and so on. So it's just this is at an infant stage, and we want to stick to what is already known. We need to have a kind of solid ground to leap into what is unknown. Otherwise, I think change is inevitable, and things will come in their own time.
Thank you. So we've got a question from Dr. Johannes.
Thank you very much for your brief and nice presentation, Dr. Derib. I don't have a very scientific and technical question, of course, but I want to raise a question about your presentation on your introductory speech. I'm always surprised when the number of speakers is mentioned by different scholars. Usually we say that Kiswahili has 100 million plus speakers, and we usually say that even Igbo and Yoruba are continued by that. And Amharic and Oromo do have about 20 and 30 million speakers. We usually say that, but I don't think that even Kiswahili doesn't have 100 million plus speakers if you consider mother tongue speakers. So which one will we always take? The first language speakers, or that mother tongue speakers, or speakers as a second language? If you take speakers as a second language, even Amharic and Oromo do have also more than 50 or 60 million speakers. So I am always surprised when I hear this. What do you say about this? Thank you.
I think it's the purpose of your inquiry that matters. What do you want the speakers for? For lexicography, we want both second and first language speakers. I'm an Amharic speaker, and I really like the English monolingual dictionary. I use it a lot. So monolingual dictionaries are not just for first language speakers, but for second language speakers who want to learn the language very well and who use it on everyday basis. The number of speakers is politics in Africa. So more people means more power, means more resources. So I don't want to get into politics, but we don't have a census that has been done. For instance, in Ethiopia, the last census was done in 2007, and now how long it is? It's more than 14 or 15, 16 or 17 years. And if we follow the birth rate calculations, then we can add up. Sometimes it may even get a little bit faster than that. I just want to focus on how many million speakers we have for African languages, and yet we have very meager digital resources. For a language that has 20 million or 30 million or let's say 100 million, if we have 1 or 2 corpora, text corpus, then that is very, very, very low. And you can go to Europe and like a language like Estonian, how many people are there? And if you look at the corpora that are available for Estonian, you'd be amazed. So I'm trying to make a point by looking at the number of people we have and the number of resources. Unfortunately, we also are low in digital resources, not only just in money.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Derib. We've got another question from Yulia Lobina from Belarus.
Thank you. Thanks a lot that you have mentioned my country, because I have a question related. The thing is that in our country, we have native language Belarusian and Russian, and we face a challenge because Belarusian is also underrepresented in corpora, in terms of corpora. For example, in Sketch Engine, we have only 1 corpus in Belarusian, but it is not annotated. And in order to make a lexicographic resource from this corpus, we need to do a lot of work to compile a morphological analyzer to use it. I have a question. How many corpora of African languages are annotated, or they are simply a collection of texts without additional information about the language, part of speech at least?
Yeah, what I have from the corpora there is Afrikaans has annotated corpora post-tagged. It's very difficult sometimes to call Afrikaans an African language because it is more of Indo-European and it has all the resources that other African languages do not have. Apart from that, we have Kiswahili. They say it is partially annotated. The small corpus of Amharic, the Amharic news corpus, is also annotated, but it is an automatically annotated corpus. Apart from that, I don't see. There was some type of attempt to look at the isiZulu corpus. I'm not sure if it's annotated. If it's annotated, then it should be the one, the isiZulu national corpus, because it is locally available at a university level, and it took a lot of time to project, and I hope they had some form of annotation. Otherwise, this annotation is also part of speech tagging. I haven't come across like stammers or lemmatizers. So even if you have part of speech tagged corpora for a very prefixing, infixing, suffixing languages which have a lot of derivations, it's very difficult to get the lemma. Even the concept of the lemma will be quite difficult when we come to African languages. The traditional concept of lemma may not fit African language. You have to search for another way to go around it. So we have very few languages that are annotated, not more than 3, I hope.
I see that you have the same problem, but it's even worse because at least we have a backup tradition how to make analysis for our language, and you need to even build a theoretical concept, then do it manually, and then make it digital as well. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Well, thank you, Dr. Derib. You have really impressed us with the challenges, but also with the prospects, because the theoretical solutions you may come to may be applicable to other languages and traditions across the world. So good luck to you in your work, and we'll be following your results.
No, thank you.
Well, dear participants, I would like to thank you all, the panelists and participants of this particular discussion and of our colloquium in general, because this academic year has seen us covering a wide range of issues in language and communication. And I have at least two suggestions in connection with that, in connection with the direction our work may take. First, I invite all the panelists to contribute to a volume based on this colloquium. Yes, we have discussed it with Dr. Derib already. So the presentations could be expanded to include some of them or participants in the next colloquium, or both, hopefully. So, Dr. Derib, do you have anything to say?
No, nothing. You've just said it all.
Thank you very much. I hope it's not the last time we've seen each other and we have a lot of work together. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.